struggling to get into the chair. I'm not that big, so it should be easier than it looks. So we're probably going to go live here in just a second.
Okay, so here's the green so far. I'm sure there are some of these you want to take out.
So again, if you're just tuning in, this is Mike Fitz at Katmai National Park, and we're going to get started here with our live chat in probably less than 60 seconds. So stand by, and we'll be with you shortly.
You'll notice that it's keeping the frame rate up, and it's also only using 34%. This is a beefy computer compared to those others. I didn't realize how much extra muscle you get with the larger one. So it definitely is worth keeping this one associated with the cams. It's like an advertisement for Apple.
I'm going to get rid of one of those. Well, it's 3 o'clock. Shall we get started?
We should get started, yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome to our headquarters in King Salmon, Alaska at Katmai National Park and Preserve. My name is Mike Fitz, and I'm the media ranger here at Katmai.
And my name is Roy Wood. I'm the Chief of Interpretation for Katmai National Park and Preserve.
And we also have someone else joining us this afternoon.
My name is David Kopschever. I'm the social media and Bearcam intern.
Yeah, so David is here to help moderate the comments for us. We also have somebody from explore.org helping to do that as well. So we'll try to answer as many of your questions about things that are on your mind today, because we announced that Roy and I were leaving Katmai here shortly, and I know that was quite a surprise to many people. So I know that's kind of, I guess, the main topic of conversation today. And we also want to maybe try to revisit some of our favorite maybe moments over the past few years too, and sort of take a look back at what we've seen recently.
Absolutely. I know the note that you posted on the website on Monday was the first that most people had heard of that we were leaving, and I kind of felt a little bad about that, because we've always, I feel, been really open and honest with everybody. We have shared everything, even when it could have gone horribly wrong. And so this is one where it may have felt a little. Well, it's a surprise, because we've known about it for a while that we were leaving. We didn't just find out like over the weekend. And so we'll address some of that today, as well as, like you said, to talk about some of our favorite moments. And my favorite moments, I know, are going to be some of the same ones that you have, but also some different ones, because I was here from the very beginning. But I really want to hear what the viewers' favorite moments are.
Sure.
And then some of my favorite moments are not necessarily like the coolest, strangest events. It's just where the Bearcams really shined and where the Bearcam participants really shined, because for me, that's the thing that I'm probably most proud of with all of this, is the community of people out there that are watching the cams and contributing to our understanding of bears, whether it's screen captures or photos they took while they were here, or observations. And so those moments are really cool for me. So think about those moments too as a viewer, not just this is one of my favorite moments and I missed it and I had to view it on the cams, and not just Lefty jumping off the falls, which was awesome. But there's some other things that have a lot of meaning to me, and hopefully to some of the people out watching on the cams.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hope that during the chat, people will be able to write down in the comments at the bottom of the page on explore.org what they've thought of the cams over the past few years and some of their favorite moments. And we probably won't have time to read them during the chat, but
right.
Afterwards. Certainly brown.
Because we sometimes have the fairly dry scientific approaches, which I know some of you do too, because you come out during those moments and geeked out with us. And then you know, because everybody is in bear viewing for different reasons, and yeah, so that I really like that, and that's why we have David here, so that we have one more set of eyes watching the comments and questions, and can help us consolidate those and pose those questions to it. Who's helping us from Explorer today?
Courtney from
Courtney?
Explorer.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Great. And we don't mention this enough, but there is truly no way that this would happen were it not for this great partnership with Explorer. There's a team of people there that, as you guys all know, do amazing work and have put these cameras around the world, and there is no way that we'd be sitting here reminiscing over the past few years were it not for this great partnership with Explorer.org.
We'd still be dreaming that it could be a possibility. We would still have it in our head, and that would be about as far as it could.
And I don't know if we've talked about that ever, but this idea of having the cams was hatched during our long-range interpretive plan, and I know you were involved with that, but that's back when you were seasonal, and I don't remember
like
how much.
2008, I think.
Yeah.
So I wasn't. It was only my second summer here at that point in time.
And one of the things that we felt was necessary for people to care about Katmai and the bears was to use technology to bring the bears to the people. And we had a couple of approaches to that we were looking at, and you know, frankly, Facebook and Twitter and those things didn't exist, or they were completely off our radar. I can't remember the chronology of Facebook. If Zuckerberg was in college doing that in 2008, and you know, we just weren't aware of it. But our goal that came out of that long-range interpretive plan was to use technology, and that included the park film. And then this other more nebulous idea of creating a virtual campfire is what we called it in the long-range interpretive plan. A place for people that loved bears and salmon and Katmai to congregate and talk about either their real experiences that they've had at Katmai or their experiences that they had if we ever figured out a way to do cameras. And we tried to do cameras on our own, the Park Service and a couple of partners in 2009 and 10, and we just couldn't really overcome the technology, so we shelved the idea again. And I find it kind of interesting to reminisce back to those days when the maximum number of simultaneous viewers we could have on the cams was 25 at one time. So I couldn't even get in half the time.
And we couldn't watch
100% of the time, really. Every time I would go to it, it would say error 500, which is a server error for like too many people trying to log in.
Yeah, and we couldn't even watch it either.
Right.
We had no idea what people were seeing. So that was a very different experience than what we've been able to have over the past few years in interacting with that online audience.
Yeah, that was missing entirely, the interaction. It was a one-way broadcast, so it was a step toward the virtual campfire, but the Park Service web presence wasn't to the point where we could even have blogs or anything like that. And we pulled the plug on that a few years into it, and then it just sort of sat until that wonderful day when Tom from Explorer called me and said, "Hey, we got this crazy idea. You guys interested in putting cams at the falls?" And I like reached over, grabbed the book off the shelf where we tried all of this, and we went through it, and you know, here we are 4 years later with you know, a great network of cams and great educational partners to work with, and you guys tuning in to share your experiences around our virtual campfire here today.
So I guess, I mean, we have a lot of questions rolling in, I think.
And I can ramble forever, as you guys know. I can talk about nothing. And we didn't have any idea what we were talking about. Mike just came down a little while ago and said, what
we never
are we going to talk about?
That's what we. That's our deep secret. We don't. That's not really true. But.
It's the first time, really, I think we haven't had an idea of what we were going to talk about. Every other time we were like, we're going to talk about mothers and cubs. We're going to talk about the salmon arriving. We had a specific thing that we wanted to highlight that week and then answer questions. And this time, I don't know. As I said to Mike just right before we started, I've sort of been resisting thinking too much about this because it makes it real.
Yeah, it's kind of, that's it. You know, once it happens. So. I know we have a lot of questions rolling in, David. I don't know if you had a place to start. Maybe you can throw one at us.
Yeah, you know, I think the most common question has been, where are you guys going? Why are you leaving? We'll start with I guess why, and I can start with why anyone leaves the Park Service. And sometimes people don't leave, but in the Park Service, when a job becomes vacant,
people apply for it, and there's a lot of competition. So anyway, that's why I applied for that job. And my last day is Friday, and I will be headed there in the middle of next week after the movers come. So that's my reason and my story and where I'm going and all that. And we can, if questions pop up, I can try to answer those too. Yours is different though.
Mine's a little bit different. Yeah, mm-hmm. I like to say I'm retiring. That's it.
We would all like to say we're retiring.
I'm kicking back and relaxing. So I'm not leaving to take another job at a national park. In fact, I won't have a job this summer at all. So I'm planning on trying to work on some other projects. I think that I've wanted to do for a long time. I do really want to be involved with the bear cams this summer. Leaving Katmai is one of the more difficult decisions that I think I've made, and I didn't honestly realize how hard it would be at first. Because
last night,
because I had worked at many different national parks before I came here, and each one of them is very special. But after my seasons were over, I was kind of like, oh yeah, okay, I guess I'm going to wander on to my next adventure. But Katmai really grew on me more than any other place. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was talking to some coworkers and friends last night and telling them about how this is really maybe the first place that I started to pay attention to how things just happened here. The phenology of everything. Got to know the wildlife very well. This was the first place where I realized that, again, wildlife work, they are individuals when they are out in nature. We can look at a bear population and say that bears do certain things, but each one of these animals is very, very unique. I mean, that was fascinating for me to really learn about. I didn't realize the first summer that when I came up here in 2007 how easily hooked I would be on the bears. And I know many people who watch the cams have experienced that too. You just pop in for a few moments out of curiosity. Hey, what's this? This is weird. Oh, and then you see that bear Otis in the far pool, and you want to know more about him. And then you see another bear on top of the falls catching fish, and then you see a mom with the cubs, and you want to know all about them. You start to see the differences between them, and to me that was really, really fascinating. So, learning about Brooks River, learning about Katmai and its bears was really, really satisfying for me. And I really don't want to completely give that up. So I'm not going to work at another park, but I am looking forward to maybe being involved in the cams in some way. At minimum, you'll probably see me comment in the chat from time to time. So I'd love to converse with you in the future. So you'll see me as part of the bear camp community.
Will you be Ranger Mike, or will you be something else?
I think I'll be something else, but it'll be my name. You'll probably see my name, just Mike Fitz right on there. So, because otherwise, if I start, typing in some random screen name, everyone's gonna be like, well, who's this?
Yeah, who's this guy?
Who's this imposter? so yeah, I think you'll be able to see my name on there.
So people also want to know, is this going to be an opportunity to expand Explore.org to other parks?
Well, that's a great question. It is the possibility. Explore is always looking for new places to put cams in, and that is almost entirely their decision where they go, of course. And as I said, they're constantly evaluating. I don't know what their plans are for the future. I know that once I arrive in Shenandoah, I will be looking around to see what I could possibly find that would be cammable. I just created a new word, but cammable, and share that with Explore, and hopefully they would be interested in partnering with us again. But it's a completely different park there, and I don't know what the agenda is at Shenandoah at this point. I don't know what their plans have. What they have planned for the future there. So I don't really know at this point, but I would love to partner with Explorer again, and I would love to try to recreate some of this in another location. Some of you have probably been to Shenandoah before. I have been there once, crossing it on a geology field trip, and we didn't stop because geologists like to get out of the van and take their rock hammers and pound on rocks, and that's a no-no in a national park. And so we didn't spend time in the park. And then I was there a couple of weeks ago for a brief visit because I had a meeting in D.C. and I drove down to go house hunting. So I don't know very much about it. So I don't know if there's a spot where we would have a congregation of wildlife, because otherwise, if you're just looking at grass grow, how often would you tune into that? Even if we had the life history of that grass or that shrub or something, Mike would tune in if it was willows.
Come on, willows. Now you're labeling me as a giant nature nerd, and that's completely false, as everyone knows.
I don't know. It's a possibility, and I hope that Explore would be interested in partnering with whatever park I go to if we can find something suitable. But we want it to be good, and Explore wants it to be good, so we wouldn't try to force the technology on a place where it didn't really fit. Although I personally have dreams of a salamander cam. Let me know how many of you would tune in for a salamander cam.
You need some nanotechnology.
Put it on them so they can worm's eye view of them getting attacked.
Because they're probably, I think they're the most abundant terrestrial predators in that habitat, or vertebrate predators, I should say, vertebrate.
Yeah.
So they'd be cool critters to watch.
Any takers on salamander cam yet?
Not yet.
Oh man.
See here.
I thought that was going to be the big idea of the day.
I see that someone did call me a geek, which is okay. I'm very comfortable in that cloth right now, so that's quite all right.
Yeah. So that would be great. The bear cams are popular on Explore.org, and I was just talking with Tom from Explore this morning, and there's probably some questions about the continuity of the cams with Mike and I leaving.
I think over the past few days, there's been quite a bit of speculation about that.
The whole agreement we have with Explore and the way we do things in the Park Service would make Mike and I really irrelevant in all of this anyway, because it's not us. It's never been about us, or it's always been about the bears and the park, and so the agreement is set up in a way that we will replace Mike, we will replace Roy, David is kind of replacing them for the short term, but everybody is mobile in the Park Service, and Explore.org knows that, and the agreement we have with them is a 10-year agreement, and we're only in year one of this we've now entered year 2 of this 10-year agreement. So you're virtually assured of at least 9 more seasons of Bear Cam, hopefully, frankly, with different faces during that time. You guys have seen me rambling on for I don't even know how many years now, and typing in the text field a lot, and you've seen Mike for a number of years. It's going to be great, I think, really refreshing to have some different people come in with different skills and different interests, and maybe we can draw in more people into the cams if we have some new personalities in there.
Diversity is good in a lot of ways.
And some of the people that are going to appear on the cams are in the building right now, but we can't all fit around the table. If they were standing right out here, and there's nobody here today heckling us, but if they were here, we'd pull them in and introduce them to you. But some of the people that you guys have seen already, or many of the people are still here. Troy Hammond is still here, so Troy will be on camera undoubtedly at some point. Michael Saxton, the bear biologist, is still here. Leslie, they all come in this weekend. I'm sorry they're not here now, so we could introduce them. Leslie will be here this weekend and this season. We got David, who will be here all the way through bear season. We've hired another person to work with David to do that. My replacement for the short term is here already as acting chief of interpretation. Linda Chisholm, who did the archaeology chat with Mike last year, is here again. Have I missed anybody? Anyway, the point was that there's ample opportunity for continuity, but also this wonderful opportunity to bring in new people. I'm really hoping that we can reach out to people that speak other languages now, because I'm not very good at speaking anything other than English, and some would even say that I lack in that area at times. Spanish is the only thing I can dabble in. Do you? You like konnichiwa, right?
I know.
A little Japanese.
I know like one word of 3 languages besides English. So I don't have any.
Little Spanish.
But I know we have a native Spanish-speaking person who's going to be here this summer, and so there's opportunity to reach out to that community, and we can see on the analytics for the website that we have a lot of viewers around the world, but we don't interact with that many of them. I mean, we have our night owl friend, and we've Jurgen. and we have other people from it, and other people here are doing amazing things.
Yeah, when David has 40,000, 50,000 Periscope followers,
right?
And here I am, just watching the cams like everybody else,
running out of internet.
Yeah, running out of internet at that point in time.
So I rambled on again there.
Well, you've got lots of votes for Salamander Cam.
Salamander Cam, okay. So if I get enough internet at my house and I have a pond, I will get a Salamander Cam. With or without Explorer, I will have a Salamander Cam.
Maybe a Newt Cam.
A Newt Cam?
Yeah.
Well, another thing people want to know about is the DNA project. Will that be continuing on? Will they be informed?
As much as possible, I believe. Michael's just starting. I think he just got approval for the project to go forward with that PhD project this year. You may know more about it than I do.
Not too much, but Michael Saxton, who was the lead going out and investigating the death of the cub last fall and then of 868 last fall, he is our bear biologist right now, and he is in a doctoral program, and his thesis involves the collecting of DNA from the bears, and an offshoot of that will be helping us create this family tree of the bears. He's going to be back this weekend. He fully intends to do that, and through the incredible generosity of all you BearCam participants, we got, I haven't counted.
It was 11,000 at last count.
Yeah, so over $11,000 in individual donations from many of you, and that's incredible, and that shows that the cams are really instrumental in helping you connect with this distant resource, because I know a lot of you haven't been here, but do feel a kinship with the bears and a connection with Katmai because of the cams, and that's one rubric right there that you can use to measure connection. If people are willing to part with their time or their money, and you guys part with a lot of your time observing the bears and reporting what you see, or the belugas and reporting what you see. When we do a project in a national park, there's a process that every researcher, including MPS researchers, has to go through, and that DNA project has cleared that hurdle. And I would expect that this summer he will begin to start doing some sampling of the bears, and that would be a great chat to get him on before that project starts, in case you see some of that behavior on the cams. Then you'll know, oh, that's Michael going out and darting the bears, or I don't know if he'll have an assistant or if it'll just be him. But
results, though, we're not going to get results for quite a while. I mean, because it's not like we can just pop them into a machine and
it's not like a tricorder in Star Trek. I wish it was that easy. I mean, it's getting there. It's amazing how fast they can sequence the DNA. So what'll happen? I shouldn't talk too much because I don't know that much about it in detail. But he'll dart them. The samples will be preserved long enough to be sent to a lab, and then he probably won't be able to analyze them into the fall sometime. And so what I would suspect will happen is that you will see some activity going on this summer, but it would be sometime over the winter or spring of next year when we here at the park might get the first results. And then I said when y'all here in the park might get the first results, and then you can begin to piece together the family tree and share that information. But that's something that you guys, when we do the chat with Michael, or when they do the chat with Michael, you can ask that question and see what the timeline is. And he may not know exactly because he hasn't done this project before. But I know when we started it a previous time, we preserved all the samples that were taken during that window and then sent them off in blocks. It wasn't like dart and run one to FedEx and mail it. They were frozen, or actually in that case they were preserved in alcohol, I believe, and then sent away.
And they're not. We should clarify that they're not tranquilizing the bears. This is part of what happens at Brooks River. It's a biopsy dart, and I'm sure Michael will be happy to share more information about that, and David will help communicate that. But it's just a biopsy dart. It takes a little chunk of skin out. Yeah. That's as much as of the impact on the bears that will happen.
First time somebody, when Tammy was doing that, she was describing to me this biopsy dart, and your first thought is like, oh my God, that's awful, that they're poking holes in the bears. But if you take the needle size in relation to the size of the bear, it's minuscule. And some of you may have had biopsies taken before. It's just a little plug of skin that they need to run the DNA, and these darts will hit them and pop back out and take just a little like Tic Tac size piece of skin, or a little longer. And even if that bothers you, even thinking about that, just think about the wounds you've seen them inflict on one another when they're playing. This is pretty minor compared to what they do when they're playing, or what I used to get when I was playing.
Mm-hmm. So how about the Bear Book?
Well, the PDF version of the Bear Book's done.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. So if you wanted the 2016 version, it's on Katmai's website right now. And I think at the top of the chat on explore.org, where you can post your comments, there's a link to the ebooks page on Katmai's website, and you can download the latest version of that. So we'll have, hopefully somebody next winter update it for 2017. I mean, as soon as it's out, it's already obsolete. There's probably already going to be changes in the Bears that are going to make certain pages obsolete and things like that. But I know it was downloaded a few hundred times within just a day of me announcing it. So that's also been really satisfying to be able to share, what I know about the Bears, and having so many people very eager to consume that information, and also having the audience being so willing to share their observations with us too. I mean, some of the things that I have up in the queue here is those are things that we would maybe miss, like the screen captures of some of the fish underwater, for instance, or there's one of a bear on the bridge too, I believe, and that one's really interesting. So all of these things that you're willing to share with us, that's been really, really great. So that's kind of like the part of the community that I'm definitely going to miss along the ways. But yeah, the Bear Book's up and finished. If you want to download it, it's a big download, so please be patient with it and save it to your desktop so you don't have to download it again. Don't open it in your web browser. Just save it to your desktop, and it's best viewed in Adobe Reader. Sometimes some of the other software that reads those PDF files, it may have some glitches here and there, especially with videos. But I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. And you've already mentioned that you'll be trying to continue to post on the message boards and participate in that. Roy, wondering if you'll be able to continue.
I intend to. However, for the first 4 to 6 weeks, I'm homeless. So I don't know what I will have as far as internet or access to anything. So with any luck, I will be in a place with internet, really fast internet, by the time the bear cams really kick in. And so you couldn't pay me to stay away, because I'm going to really miss this place. I'm really going to want to watch the Bears, and I'm going to want to sit around the virtual campfire myself and
we can't wait
discuss stuff.
To troll David when he's on there chatting with everybody. So really going to give him a hard time. Don't do that, please.
Only you two control him, right?
Yeah, we have permission to do that.
So I intend to do that, and I don't know what my schedule will look like for sure, till I get there and get settled in, and I don't know what the demand will be, but we had talked about, and I talked to Explore about this too, that maybe at some point, whether it's July or whether it's September, I don't know, but to try to do something where we could do something from Shenandoah and something from Katmai, a shared one comparing brown bears to black bears, or our habitat to our habitats. So I don't know if that'll happen. That's really up to you guys here in Katmai, because we would be intruding on your operation, and if people would even be interested in that. But that's something that I could try to do. The nice thing with the 4-hour time difference is that I could do it after work, and it wouldn't impact my work schedule. But we'll see, and see if people are interested in doing that. Yeah. We did it with the polar bears, and it was pretty cool, I think. Although it would have been even cooler if we got to go to Churchill and watch the polar bears there.
Another question that keeps coming up, 451's cub dying last year. Where are we with that study?
Well, we don't really have any more information to give.
And I'm not able to drop any of these in. Okay. Thanks for showing me how to use the technology, Mike. Where have you been all my life?
So yeah, with 451, actually, we don't have any more results to share. Kind of what we got last fall was it. The lab, ended up determining that this cub likely died from canine adenovirus type 1, CAV-1, if you want to look it up. I think many of you who are watching the camps right now are very familiar with what happened right then. If you're not familiar with it, just a quick recap. Of course, we had a cub last year that stumbled in front of the cams and just basically collapsed right below one of our cams, and we watched it and the mother and the other cub for 2 days at least.
Wasn't it like Wednesday afternoon, and then she died?
Friday.
The cub died Saturday morning.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So we don't have any extra information to give. It seems like everything that we got from the lab was pretty conclusive for that point in time. Yep. Same with 868 too.
There were some other samples that the forensics lab in Wisconsin was going to send out, sort of for their own curiosity, even though they determined that it was probably CAV1 that was the cause of death, and some of those took months and months to run, and I haven't heard anything from that. David, you could try to ask Troy that or Michael that. They may have been communicating with Michael since he was their point of contact, and so when he gets back, you could ask him if he heard any more after the CAV1. And obviously, if we do hear something, if David hears something, he would share that with you guys in the chat function on Explore or in a live chat at a later time. But that's a good question. I've almost forgotten that we had those other ones that were going to take months because it involved taking tissue samples and trying to culture different organisms out of those. Interesting stuff, but it was most likely CAV1 and unknown or inconclusive for 868's death. The samples were very deteriorated by the time they made it to the testing facility, and while it tested negative for CAV1, the samples were bad. So there is a possibility, I suppose, that there was some error in the sampling or in the testing.
Well, as you leave, there are more and more people visiting Brooks Camp. Do you guys have any thoughts on what effect that will have on the bears?
You mean as far as visitation going up? Visitation actually hasn't gone up, really. We've always been hovering just a little under 10,000, with the exception of the recession years where we dropped down a little bit. I think the demand is way up because of the cams, so I don't think that the numbers of people at Brooks, because even if it went from 9,400 to 9,800-ish, which is what I think we were last year, that's a tiny, you spread that over 100 days or even over 30 days, that's not that many more people at a time. But what I think is really being impacted by it is the viewers' ability to try to get in there, because what used to be difficult but possible was a campground reservation at Brooks Camp used to be difficult but possible, now has turned into essentially a lottery where only the people with the fastest internet and luck can get in, because we sold out most of Brooks Camp in July in the first 8 minutes this year. And I don't remember, do you remember how many reservations were made in the first 1 minute? It was a lot in the first 1 minute. Yeah. So people were waiting just to hit that button, so that kind of makes it a lottery. So I think that's the one, perhaps negative, if you will, of the cams, is that it used to be a bit more of a secret place for people visiting, and now it's not a secret anymore, because last year the number of Bear Cam viewers exceeded 22 million, and that's not a very well kept secret, if any at all.
And then I have a little bit of a thought on that and a follow-up question too, but maybe we're about 35 minutes
about halfway.
So we probably should reintroduce ourselves.
Okay. Yeah, we're about halfway point, and we want to welcome you for joining us on our chat if you're just joining us right now. If you'd like to ask us any questions, you can go to Explore.org's webpage, go all the way to the bottom, and you can post your questions in the chat function there. My name is Roy Wood, and I'm the Chief of Interpretation for Katmai National Park.
And my name is Mike Fitz, and I'm the Media Ranger here at Katmai.
My name is David Kopschever, Bear Cam and social media intern.
And we were just talking about, of course, Brooks Camp, and whether there's more people, and that could place more demands on the resources at Brooks Camp. And the park, in the 1990s investigated, and reasons maybe to limit visitation, and I think that's something that national parks may have to revisit in the near future. I mean, we know that there's a lot of national parks around the world, and especially in the United States, they get very, very crowded. And what is the carrying capacity of those places as far as like from a resource protection standpoint or just from a visitor experience standpoint? I mean, we could pack a lot of people into Brooks Camp, but if we put 1,000 people there a day, is the experience going to be high enough for to be enjoyable and to be a high quality experience? So those are a couple of things that you really have to balance, and I don't think I have the smarts or the expertise to really make that decision, and I would never really want to be saddled with that decision, because you're not going to be able to please anybody. That's going to be one of those decisions that one side of the spectrum is going to say you didn't go far enough, and then the other side of the spectrum says you went too far. So you would never really be able to satisfy everybody. But in the mid-1990s, the park did propose capping day use limits to Brooks River, and it's never been implemented. And we already have de facto overnight limits, because there's only so many beds in the lodge, and there's only so many spaces or spots in the campground for people. Yep. So that seems to be fairly accepted, but the day use limits is something that really many parks haven't trodden on, and they really haven't tried it. So I think that might be something in the future, because there are days at Brooks Camp where it really feels like rangers are kind of at their breaking point. I mean, we've all, like in July, there's days where we're all like really, really frazzled. Yep. I think at the end of the day, and it's been a very stressful day with bears everywhere and people everywhere. So there will be, I think, maybe some tough decisions coming up in the future, but that's not for Roy and I to make. We'll be very interested parties in how that happens, of course, just like everyone who watches the camera.
Yeah, and if you follow Katmai's webpage or any park's webpage that you're interested in, if you follow them and you check out their management section on there, you can see what projects or regulations they're proposing at that park, and you can comment on it and you can make your feelings heard. And so every year Katmai posts the regulation changes that we're proposing for the next year. Anytime we build something or remodel something or relocate something, we post that information on the website and invite you to provide your opinion. And at some point, we are going, in the coming years, we're going to be doing a plan that will affect operations at Brooks Camp, and that will be a great opportunity for cam viewers to weigh in, because the park will want to also incorporate the needs of the bear cam viewers as well, so that bear cam viewers have a quality experience, and not just the people that could make it here, who won the lottery and had the money and could get a plane flight out here.
And I think that's one of the really important things for managers in the future to consider, is that the people, the online audience, I consider the online audience to be just as important as anybody who's on the ground at Brooks Camp. I mean, I know that people who watch the camps have had very strong connections to the bears and to Katmai and become stewards of this place, actually beyond sort of my expectations and what I first imagined. So anytime that we are planning changes to Katmai, I mean, we have to think about, I think, the people around the world who care about this place too. Absolutely. And how that impacts their experience.
All right, well, moving towards your favorite moments on the bear cams, who are some of your favorite bears?
I've always tiptoed around the answer to that question.
Can we get it out of you this time?
Can we get it out of me this time? I'm going to stick.
Are you ticklish?
I'm going to stick with
stick to your guns.
Yeah, stick to my guns.
Poplar.
What I've said before. I like to watch certain bears. There are bears that I think if we don't see them at Brooks Camp in the future, Brooks Camp really won't be the same, and they will be missed. I think, like, for many different reasons. Like when 410, one day she's not going to come back to Brooks River, and Brooks River will not be the same without that bear. 409 is another one like that.
So those of you that have seen the movie The Revenant, do you think the bear looks a little like 410? In The Revenant? I know have you guys have you seen it? No, I think it looks like 410. You let me know if you think it looks like 410 in there. But so Mike has finally admitted that 410 is his favorite bear.
No.
That's the message there. So if we're doing our favorite female bears, my favorite female bear has changed over time. my first favorite female bear was Milkshake, who is in the park film with the 4 cubs. And she's my favorite because she's the first one I ever saw at Brooks Camp. And she had 4 cubs then. Unfortunately, Milkshake has passed, or at least not come back to Brooks Camp in the last 5 years, something like that. So that's probably bad news for why they change over time. And right now, the bear, and I know we've got her on here, the bear with the best story as far as I'm concerned is... That's not...
Oh, those are her
That's
cubs.
her cubs.
Yeah, those are her cubs.
I saw Holly on the little thumbnail. Well, it's Holly. There, I blew it anyway. Holly, and my reason for having Holly as my favorite bear is because I've had a long history with her at Brooks Camp, and I've seen her be, an outstanding, nurturing mother with backpack when his leg was injured. Do we have a backpack picture? Or are you going to
Oh, we don't.
Oh,
No,
there's
we don't.
Holly. Okay.
Yeah, we don't have a picture of him. But
So I like that part of the story. I like it. The backpack is still around, and so it completes that story. And I like her other stories. Unfortunately, losing the cub, but of course the adoption of Cub Adult a couple of years ago. So I like her for that reason, and then that also becomes one of my best bear cam moments too, because it's one of those times where everything came together just right with the cams, our observations on the ground, and then observations from at least one cam viewer who was here on vacation that helped us piece together this whole story. And for those of you that don't really know the story, 402 female at Brooks, over the course of a couple of days, abandoned her cub, who was too small to be on his own at that point, and it did not look very well for him. And so Mike and I talked a lot about how it's what happens in nature sometimes. Animals get abandoned, they die, and we don't know for what reason it was abandoned, and maybe it's injured. There's a lot of speculating, but the main point was that in a national park, that is something that we would allow to happen because it's a natural process. Now, if we had done something to drive them apart, if we had killed the mother somehow accidentally, we may have intervened and allowed the cub to be taken away to a rehab center or a zoo or something. That could have happened, but in this case, as far as we could tell, it was natural. And he frankly didn't look good for a few days, and we did see him catch a fish right at the end of one of our chats one time, and Sherry came running up, remember, with her picture on her iPhone, and we held it up in front of the camera so people could see him eating a fish, and there was much rejoicing. But we also knew that August was coming up, and the cubs, all bears tend to leave Brooks Camp, and they sort of like going onto the dark side of the moon. You lose contact with them when they leave Brooks Camp for that period of time, and you cross your fingers and hope they come back around so you can reacquire that contact with them. While they were separated, and I can't remember her screen name now because I know her first name, and I don't feel like I should say somebody's first name. You know who you are. Calliope Jane. Yeah. So Calliope Jane takes some photos of this bear and sends them to the park and says, "Hey, do you have any idea who these bears are? I don't recognize the family group." And Ranger Gene and I looked at it and went, "Oh my gosh, I think that's Cub Adult." And Holly, it appeared in those photos, was allowing Cub Adult to be close.
And I will actually admit that was a time where I was wrong, because I was telling the Bear Camp fans, people had asked, is there a chance that it'll get adopted? And when you look at the research, when you look at
we Googled the heck out of
any
that.
documentation of it, it's very, very rare. Yeah. And I said, I was just kind of preparing people for the reality that it's not going to happen, because if I would have placed a bet on that, I would have lost big money. Definitely, I would have lost big money on that.
And since Holly was my favorite bear, I knew.
Oh, of course you did.
I knew she was taking care of Cub Adult.
So yeah, I was certainly wrong in that instance, but that was one of my favorite sort of moments too.
And then I loved it
how that very sort of unique story came together.
But remember, even when they came back together, they came back from the dark side of the moon and they were walking out on the spit. You're like, I'll believe it when she nurses. You were still
in the knock.
Grumpy scientist.
Sometimes it takes a while to change your mind, and I have an open mind. towards bear adoption.
So,
Never look at
and then I don't remember, it was the next day or whatever, you're like, I give up, you know.
It happened.
It
yeah.
happened. So that I think was phenomenal, and you know the Bear Cam participants got to see it almost in real time happen, and Calliope Jane helped us fill in that black hole on that trip of hers, and see that they were traveling together during that period of time when we couldn't see them at Brooks Camp. And so to me that gets back again to the community and the willingness to share, because she didn't have to share those photos with us. And we would not have known that if she hadn't done that.
It's sort of a, I guess, a related question to this, coming from Courtney, is, you know, we just talked about if we have favorite bears or what they might be, but what was the first bear that we saw at Brooks River? Do you remember?
Oh, for me it was Milkshake and her first cubs.
Okay. Because I remember the first bear I saw too, and it was 854 Divot.
Yeah.
And that, to me, actually, that's why, you know. So I remember seeing her. She was digging divots in the river, hence her nickname.
Yeah.
It was in the springtime. It was our first day at Brooks Camp, first time I had ever been out there. We're just walking around, and she's digging in the gravel, sniffing where some salmon had died the year before. And then a few years later, we end up finding that Divot wandered outside of the park, and she came back with a wire snare around her neck, and we were able to successfully remove that snare from around her neck. So that was also one of sort of my favorite moments here, to be a part of a process of that process, and really all I did was I kind of identified the bear, and I don't even think I really helped track it. I was there mostly taking photos of and documenting the whole situation. But you know, we were able to successfully remove the snare. Last year, she was a very, very fat looking female. She successfully weaned the one cub that she had in 2014. So that was another one of my favorite moments.
Also a favorite moment of mine, and I think that you know, I think that if I were pressed to say what my favorite moment absolutely was, it was that one, because it was, you know, it was an emotional ride. You know, granted, scientists are trained to think in population. You know, that you don't worry about the individual bear. You worry about the health of the population, and I had a background in science. It wasn't in biology, but I took a lot of biology classes. So there was you know, part of me that, you know, what happens to this one bear is irrelevant to the species, or even to that species at Brooks Camp, but it became just very personal, because you know, it was a man-caused injury, a wolf wire snare around her neck. She was definitely going to die if we hadn't intervened. And we weren't sure how it was going to turn out during it, and that was another moment where I think the Bear Cam community, and again Calliope Jane, same vacation, quite a trip for her. But she photographed Divot and her two cubs just outside the park near a lodge she was staying at with the wire snare, which helped us pin down that location in time for you know, likely location and time where she got the snare around her neck. And anyway, that just felt really good. The whole team came together. The Bear Cam community came together around that, and I'm incredibly proud of the parks and the Park Service's ability to come together from across the state. Because Grant Hildebrand, in this photo, the guy in the maroon T-shirt, he came from Anchorage and had to get drugs from Denali, and this all was going on really fast behind the scenes when it looked like we weren't doing anything. But it was just an honor to be on that team. And
lightning speed for Bush, Alaska, for rural Alaska.
Oh, yeah.
It was.
And it turned out well, and that's the thing. You know, we were prepared for the worst and crossing our fingers for the best, but everybody pitched in on that process, including Leslie, running outside in her jammies to follow Divot and Cub until somebody else who was properly dressed for Bush, Alaska, could catch up and take over. So yeah, that was an amazing thing to be a part of. And if you would like to see more of that story, we do have a video on YouTube posted on that, and it's long. It's 42 minutes long, I think. But if you want to watch that story, that's what we tried to capture during the process.
Got another question here that just came up from Debbie. What was the biggest surprise or the biggest thing you guys learned?
And Mike has a favorite bear.
Well, you want to?
I've learned so much. I mean, it's really hard to say if there's just one thing, one biggest surprise. I don't know if I could really give a succinct answer to that.
I mean, that's a good question.
People have, shown us over the years. So all of those things. I mean, those are just really, really fantastic moments, and I'm really thankful that everyone's been willing to share those things with us.
And if we had been willing to commit to actually leaving earlier, we would have contacted, I think, some people and like Donna T. Bennett and asked to post some of her images up here, and others too, because you guys are definitely inspired by the bears in the park and are sharing artwork that you've done and the cartoons that you've done and
the
poetry and
Photoshops
songs.
Actually are some of the best things that I have.
Which one's me?
I'm not really sure. I know there's
one big fat one.
There's
You're
one.
The cub.
Yeah, there's one with us and I think Jurgen, the Three Amigos.
Oh yeah.
And I'm flattered that they made me the tallest one out of the group in that. So, I thought for sure I was pegged for Martin Short's character in that Photoshop, but not quite.
So yeah, we've really enjoyed that, and I think the parks for their 100. So the Park Service is celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. #FindYourPark, and have to get the plug in right. A couple of days ago, or last week, if you would have done it on Twitter, you would have gotten a park ranger emoji for that day, and I don't know if it's still going on. You can try that and see, which is pretty cool. But for 100 plus years of there being national parks, people have been inspired by these places and shared that inspiration by photography and song and painting and sculpture, and I think that's happening with all of Explorer's cams around the world too, is that people are connecting with these distant places and sharing that connection via technology of today. Technology in 1872 was glass plate negatives and painting. Technology today is Periscope, Facebook posts, Photoshopped images, memes, all the things that we see you guys do. And we laugh our butts off at the stuff that you guys have created. And we don't always get the opportunity to say that because...
We do enjoy them very much.
Because some of them, as you know, are not quite safe for work or kid-friendly. And as much as we enjoy those, we feel like we shouldn't post those and drop those into what we're doing. I should switch off of that now.
We have saved quite a few.
But we have saved them, and we enjoy them, and we shared a lot of them with David when he first got here and others to show that that's another way you can measure people's engagement with the park and their desire to be stewards is when they have those other connections like that, and so that has just been so much fun to watch. So keep those up, and I know I'll be looking for those, and Mike will be looking for those, and when they're safe for work, we'll share them if you allow it. When they're not, we'll secretly enjoy them ourselves. But that's been fantastic, and Explorers is always trying to make that part of the platform with the screen capture button and the ability to embed those in the streams. That's been great. That was something missing from our first attempt at doing this on our own, was any of that interactivity.
Well, it's about 6 after 4, so we've gone a little bit over an hour.
We can keep going. I don't have to hit stop.
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to be back on a chat.
It'll be like a Jerry
while,
Lewis telethon. We can just go until we're exhausted and the blood clots are forming. And there's a Star Wars clip somebody's dropped in.
Darth Vader voice.
Darth Vader voice. We didn't have Darth Vader voice again now, did we? Is that somebody's favorite, Darth Vader voice?
That's an old one, I think,
okay.
for when you actually did it.
Yeah, so what are some of their favorites?
There's been all kinds of...
So I had a couple of others. I had Lurch eating the other bear. It's not necessarily a bear cam highlight. You have to go back to the very first year, and I don't know if we have clips posted anywhere. Oh, I think they might be in the film, but when that cache was there in front of the cameras, and while a bear eating another bear is an unpleasant thing, I think it was the first time that the community really came together and gelled and got around this idea of truly being like privileged witnesses to this part of nature that nobody ever gets to see, because nobody except a fool would stand that close to a food cache of a large dominant male bear. It would just be crazy. But the cams were right there, so we could all watch it and really observe something that without disturbing the bear. He was probably oblivious to it and the whole time. So that was, I think, a really phenomenal experience to be a part of. And there's no clip of that on here for me to pull from.
I didn't have any screenshots of that, but I know many of you have screenshots of that from 2012, the fall 2012.
Yeah, that was awesome. I had the others that were on here. The first time we got the bear snorkeling underwater, and I don't think that clip I showed earlier was that one, but the first time we had a shot like this underwater, which wasn't that long after the cams went live, like, yes, it works. That was pretty cool, because nobody gets to see that view ever.
The underwater cams actually I think been my favorite cam to watch when I'm not out at the river, because I can go to the platform, and I've said this before, I can go to the falls when I'm out there in July, and I did almost every night last year. I went almost 3-4 weeks straight without a break, except when you make me go to mandatory meetings at night. I think that broke my streak. Once a year. But the underwater camera is really fascinating to watch, and the fish, to see that perspective, get to see the grayling and the trout, and of course the salmon in the river. I mean, that's so
duck legs. Yeah, and they paddle by.
So that stuff is just really, really neat.
Anybody post their favorites that you can see?
That's the favorite screenshots?
Oh, no, just favorite moments. Are there any in there that are different from what we've said? I also liked the day that Cub Adult, before he had been completely abandoned, was up in the tree. And you were out there doing your Timmy in a Well marathon broadcast until you ran out of power.
The first day that happened, I didn't have the camera or anything out. And that was one of the more stressful days I think I've ever dealt with, because I stood near that tree at a respectful distance to keep people away, and I was out there for 10 hours watching this cub in a tree, but that started that little saga, and that story that's continuing today about that animal and the abandonment and the adoption and everything like that. It came down out of the tree, ran around camp, went right back up, and I thought I was going to be there all night. And it eventually came down, and it left camp, to make a long story short. It went down to the river, and you were driving the camera.
I was driving the cam.
And I'm behind it, like, watching it. And you said a bear was coming towards it, and I thought for sure, okay, here we are. We're going to witness. This is the infanticide that we've been telling people to prepare for. And it happened to be its mother. Yep. And it was just a short-lived reunion, because she abandoned it, like, 10 days later or something. But that was another one of those moments.
That's like, quite a year.
There was a lot of stuff going on that year.
That was quite a year.
There were pictures of me at the end of that day, and I think my hair is just like, just really in a...
Wasn't it like 2 days before that Tundra was found?
That was the same day.
Or the same day,
that was the same
because
day.
It was that meeting, and they had to leave to go. Right. Yeah, that was a long day.
Longest day of work for me, I think I've ever had. And relatively speaking, I know many people have very tough days at their office, but that was again a fascinating experience. I can reflect on it now and think, wow, that was really kind of incredible to see that whole story progress the way it had.
As Donna T. Bennett would say, #Ranger Problems.
Yep.
For that one. Yeah, rough. A whole day of watching amazing spectacles. Sorry you were tired.
So we got some favorite moments here. Backpack on his rock.
Oh, yeah.
Day after day.
So, Backpack's my favorite male bear right now.
451 and her cubs last fall. Staying together.
I can say my favorite, I think, are the favorite of my live chats that I've done have been the ones where we've been in the river doing fun things. I know last year I did one with Ranger Landis.
Yeah.
And he is not working for Katmai. I don't know if we should reveal where he's working at, but he's in a national park in the southwestern United States.
At an undisclosed location.
But that one, we did one last year. That was a lot of fun. And strangely enough, the ones where we have the most potential for disaster as far as like falling in the river and frying all of our equipment, those ones have gone the most smooth, I think. There were some glitches the first time we went into the river with sound.
Yeah.
In 2013, I think, when we went into the river. and did that. But those have been those were really
Those
fun.
would be my favorite moments if you had fallen in. But you didn't fall in.
There's
so.
one. I think this one here. That one. I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one Photoshop that people did, and you look terrible in this. I must have. I don't know what happened to you.
That was one of those moments where we didn't quite have the resolution of the screen worked out right, so we were kind of stretched because my head is not that square.
Is that why my shoulders look so broad?
Yes.
But this is one of my favorite Photoshops where I was over in the far pool talking about Otis's spot. We've kind of nicknamed his office.
Yep.
A bear was coming, and we concluded the chat up on the falls platform, and then Otis or another bear came down shortly afterwards and sat in that spot. And somebody and I apologize, I can't remember who had done this, but this was really fantastic to see the scale, because I can walk around in the river and you really don't, without a bear next to me, it might be hard to really envision how big I am compared to the animal, or how large the animals actually are. And I think that graphic really illustrated it well, where they just pasted those right on top of one another. So that was really, really neat, and that's been one of my favorite Photoshops.
We've used that a lot in talking about the cams and training about them. And I was kidding before that I don't have to hit stop. To be respectful of the people that explore. We don't want to go on forever because
they have
it's
to go
quitting
home.
time for them.
Yeah,
And
they have to go home.
we can work for another 45 minutes before it's quitting time for us. But maybe just if you can mention a couple of them quickly and other favorites if there are any.
Otis in his office, B Nose sharing her fish. You'll have to go through the list. They're coming in too fast for me to read them all.
But before we conclude, we do definitely have to thank everybody at Explore.org for helping us to build this community, supporting the cameras over the years. You said
Charlie.
that, yeah,
Charlie for even having the idea to do this.
Yeah, you said it at the beginning, but we can't emphasize it enough. And the camera operators who have volunteered hundreds of
hours a year.
Hundreds of hours a year, yeah, to run and give people really special moments, because without them, again, that's another part of this community that without them, the camps would not be nearly as successful.
As a chief, I have to report volunteer hours every year to the Washington office, and it sort of hides the impact of it, because I just report volunteer hours, and it's still nothing compared to Denali or the big park like Golden Gate, which has hundreds of thousands of hours of volunteer hours. But the thing that the cam ops are able to do is in every hour in July especially, they're helping tens of thousands of people have this great experience, and I can't thank them enough. And that it's an incredible contribution there, and I wish that we could report how many people they contacted during that hour that they were volunteering, because I think it would blow the roof off as far as the numbers go. But we don't report that, unfortunately. But the contribution is no less significant.
Yeah. So thank you, Explore.org. Thank you for everyone who works there. Thank you, Cam Ops. Thanks, Cam viewers, of course, for being a part of this as well. Be sure to join David this summer. He's going to do some really fantastic things. So, yeah, Bear Camp's not going away. It's
never been about us.
Yeah,
as Mike always says.
Yeah.
Why is it about me?
So, yeah, pay attention to what's going on out there in the river. Continue to be stewards of wildlands, Katmai, national parks, and just wild animals, I think, in conservation across the world. That's more than what we can ask. And enjoy Bear Camp 2.0, I guess, this summer.
And one last bit of business. In coming days to weeks, there'll be an opportunity for you to participate in a survey sponsored by a university, a team of university researchers. And if you wanted to participate in that, they'll be announced on the website in some fashion. That would be a great opportunity to help explore and this university team assess the impact of cams such as these on the park and on the viewers. So participate in that if you have the opportunity. I know they would love to get the feedback from people. It'll be a short survey. But I also want to thank everybody for allowing Explore for allowing me to experiment and play with all this tech. I love tech, and I love using it as a way to take the park to the people, which was the big goal in our 2008 long range interpretive plan. And I really do hope I can find a way to recreate some of the experience at either Shenandoah or a park that might come after that, or help other parks do it where it's more appropriate. But it's truly been an honor getting to know many of you in person, those of you that have made it to the park, and an honor getting to know the rest of you from our chats and watching the full moon rise from Dumpling Mountain, or watching the bats fly around and catch moths and see that sockeye salmon glow white in infrared light. Who knew that? Yeah, it's been a wonderful ride for me, and it's not over for me. And as Mike said, it's not over for Bear Cam either. New faces, new areas of expertise, and
new stories,
and now we get to watch.
Kick back and relax and enjoy it. So we'll be with look for Bear Camps to go live sometime in June, and enjoy the show from there.
Yeah. Thanks again for joining us.